Just tell me when. Okay, great. Well, good morning. Welcome to the Vermont House of Representatives Tourism Caucus. It's February 12th, I believe. And this morning we are fortunate to have several guests with us to talk about the workforce and workforce creation and within the hospitality and tourism industry. And specifically, we've invited the Castleton University's Resort and Hospitality Management Program. We'll be hearing from 4 folks this morning. Frank Pause, who's the coordinator of the Resort and Hospitality Management Program at Killington, and who took over the program 2 years ago from when Castleton University acquired it from Green Mountain College. And Frank has been with the program for 20 years. We're also going to be welcoming Rob Megnan, who has worked as the executive in residence with the program after spending 37 years in the industry and at Killington and Pico. And next will be Judy Geiger, who is the Killington Pico Director of Human Resources. And finally, Jordan Spear, who is an alumnus of the program and is the Killington Pico Director of Marketing. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're very interested in hearing about workforce development. It's of key concern to the legislature and of course statewide. And we would love to hear what's going on in the exciting program at Castleton in Killington. Thank you so much. Welcome, Frank.
Okay, thank you. This program, we'll explain the program. I've got 3 or 4 slides for you to go through the program, is truly unique. Before coming to Vermont, I was the head of the Ohio State University Hotel School, all that more traditional program. But let me share my screen with you, and hopefully this will share. Here we go, and get some slides here, and I'm just going to boot through the slides. Essentially, the Castleton University program, that the bullet points are, and here's where the traction is. And I should say from the beginning that the real traction, the real value in this program is the relationship that we have with the mountain. This program could not exist without Killington, could not exist without our partnership. There's nothing in writing in terms of partnership, not even a handshake. This is going back to 2000 when Alan Wilson was the CEO of Killington. Tom Benson was the president of Green Mountain College. They get together and said, look, we're going to have a bunch of folks going to be retiring from the industry at some point in the next 20 years, and we need to get some young folks in managing, et cetera. So they started the program. I came on board, and we started the program back in 2001 at Green Mountain College. To give it some time frame, our second week of class was 9/11. So that kind of gives you an anchor point as to how long the program's been around. The trick to this is a Bachelor of Science degree in 3 years instead of 4. So they're done in 3 years. And while they're going through school, they're getting paid during the winter term with their co-op experiences, prevailing wages, whatever those are for Killington. The students earn those wages as they're going through in the various co-op positions in the winter term. And again, it's a trimester system. It's not a semester system. It's not a quarter. It's a trimester. So to give it some reference points, we start the same day everybody does in Labor Day and end at Thanksgiving. And then at Thanksgiving is the World Cup. And then we've got a week off, and then we start right away in December. First week of December, we start the winter term for co-ops, go through until the week after President's Week. So we're in week 10 of the 12-week term right now. Well, a lot of colleges are just starting back up for the spring term. We're in week 10 of 12. So we've been going at this since December. And then we've got a week off in March, and then the kids go back to school early spring, March, second week of March through the end of May. So you'll see there that it's a trimester schedule, 12 weeks. They're up at Killington. Their dorm is up there. Our classrooms are at one of the 5 condominium villages up at Killington. Everything is taught at Killington. We're totally up there. It's a true satellite campus up there. And so a lot of parents ask about this model, and I say the analogy that I use is exactly like a medical school. where you go through, you learn the theory, and what do you do after you graduate as a doctor, an MD? You go into a hospital, you become a resident, you become an intern, you go and work with live patients. The beauty of this program is that they're at Killington, and they're going to be working with Killington. They're living there, they're working there, going to class there, and they're seeing exactly what goes on. They see the, in September, before fall foliage season hits, there's nobody around. And then all of a sudden, bus after bus after bus, and then zero, and then back to Thanksgiving time, et cetera. So their schedule in the fall is academic, if you will. If you look at the columns, year 1, year 2, year 3, in the fall and the spring are academic terms. In the wintertime is the co-op term. And again, that is from Thanksgiving, let's say, until the end of February. And while they're working 35, 40 hours a week for Killington, we don't give 9 credits for just punching the time clock, okay? We've got class every Wednesday. Rob and I have class with them for 3 hours every Wednesday, where we're bringing them back into class, and we're talking about what went on this week and the communications and what's going on with about management decisions and supervision. And, so somebody's in snowmaking, somebody's in grooming, somebody's in retail, somebody's selling tickets, somebody's in F&B, and bring them back into class, and we'll talk about how that whole thing works. In addition to that, at the end of either year 1 or year 2, the students will go through a summer co-op up at Killington as well. And as you can well imagine, no resort in the world can survive just on winter alone anymore. And it's a 4-season resort industry. And so during the summertime, the students will spend one summer up there and witness the difference in mountain bikes versus skis, and the venues will change, and there'll be zip lines and wedding business, and weddings at the peak and so forth. And so it's a whole different guest, a whole different model, and a whole different way of operating. So from a student standpoint, by the time they get done and graduate in 3 years, they get 3 or 4 really meaningful work experiences on their resume at Killington. They've earned $6,000, $7,000 in the wintertime. While they're going to co-op in the wintertime, they're making about $6 or $7 grand every winter while they're going through the term. So they're paying for the winter term as well, and they're making money. So by the time they graduate, if they only work in the wintertime, they're going to make $17,000, $18,000 in wages while they're going through school. And a lot of students start work in fall when they get here and work all the way through until the end of spring. And some of our grads have made 50, 60 grand in wages while they're going through school. So they get done in 3 years instead of 4. It's actually a little less costly to go through 3 years versus 4 years of tuition on main campus in a normal college, particularly. And that's without any financial aid. So if you add in the fact that 80% of the students are getting financial aid and the average award is like 9 or 10 grand, so add that into the 6,500 they're making during the wintertime. Yeah, it's a very cost-efficient model for a family to invest in. And, it's a very work experience, work-oriented. Our students are very, what we call kinesthetic learners. They're very applied learners. They want to get hands-on in every step of the way. So let me stop there. Questions from any of the representatives? Heidi?
Boy, Patty, I'm going to open it up because I have a lot, but
Sure.
Patty McCoy.
Thank you. Frank, so can you explain, do they rotate out different jobs during it? Is there a specific schedule? Like if they're a groomer for 3 weeks and then they go on to food and beverage, or do they get a
Nope.
choice of where they want to be?
Yes, they get a choice of where they want to be, but they, so in the fall term, in the intro class up here in the fall term, one of the things we do right out of the bat is have them put their resumes together, and then I send the resumes over to HR at Killington. We work with them back and forth and get the resumes developed. About mid-October in a non-COVID year, I'm going to say in a non-COVID year, right? So in mid-October, there is a job fair that Killington will have, and our students will go apply to the job fair. And they will apply for whatever position Killington has open. So they do not rotate for the 12 weeks during the wintertime. If they're in F&B, they're in F&B for the term. If they're, 3 weeks is not enough time for them to really understand all the ins and outs of the department. And what's really neat from my side is that even in Co-op 1, this first year. And by the way, I teach the co-op one, and we really look at it from an employee, a staff viewpoint, and how to be a valued employee, a good employee. Rob does co-op two, and that's more how do you become a supervisor and what's the supervisory viewpoint like, et cetera. But I even witness in co-op one, after a couple, 3 weeks, if somebody's in snowmaking or grooming, there's some turf protection that goes on. The people in retail, if somebody's working guest services, they say, don't you people in tickets know what the hell you're doing? Why the hell, and so there'll be some of this. And that's the value of bringing them back into class, is that they see some of this departmental interaction going on. And that's where the value is. So the quick answer is, Patty, yes, they can choose where they want to go. And so some students will be focused on mountain ops or somebody in food and beverage and hospitality. The only thing we require is that one of these co-ops be in what we call front of the house, and one of the co-ops be in what we call back of the house. So one in guest contact area, one in non-guest contact area. We don't care which way they go, whether year one or year two, but we want to make sure that they witness both sides of the business.
Thank you so much.
Sure. What else?
Maybe a couple of my questions might be for the future, for Rob or Judy or Jordan, yep. But I'm really curious as to this is only with the resort, with Killington Resort, which is great. I'm just wondering what the number of students are, or what the capacity in general. Do you have more demand than you have ability, or I'm curious as to kind of how, the capacity and the number of students, and then also the staying power with regard to the student once they finish the job. How do they stay in the business? Do they stay at Killington? Do they go elsewhere? Do you have those records? Do you have those?
Yeah, so funny you should ask, right? So hopefully you can see the Excel spreadsheet here that is first year, second year, third year, and alumni from last year. So Castleton.
I don't see a spreadsheet right now.
Okay, so let me stop share, and let me try sharing, and let me try this, and how about now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you look at this spreadsheet, so the quick answer is on capacity. Killington being as large as it is, we could probably have a couple 300 students in the program if we wanted to, but we don't want to. We want to hold the capacity at 45, 60, 75, somewhere in that range. If there's 15 to 20 coming in every year, a cohort of 15 or 20, that's a nice class size from our side in terms of teaching, but also recognize that Killington has supervisory and mentoring abilities with the students. So while they're on their co-ops in the wintertime, they're working with a supervisor, right? 35, 40 hours a week, 50 hours if you're in snowmaking. And so there's a lot of mentoring that goes on with the supervisors. And I think in order to control the quality, in order to make sure that the student has a really valuable quality experience, then we're in that 60, 75 range is where our sweet spot, our comfort would be. 15 to 20, 25 per year coming in. So that's kind of where we feel comfortable. Obviously the program is smaller now because of the transition between Green Mountain College and Castleton. If you notice the second year students, these would be the kids that came in last year, the first year of the program. There's only 6 that came in last fall. When Green Mountain College went out of business, there was a large period of time between January 23rd, when GMC announced it's going out of business, and July, when Castleton could officially say, we would like to recruit you. So that we had this big gap going on. So it's kind of the reverse of the hog going through the snake kind of thing. So when this group goes out next year, then we'll start to pick up. We've got 16 in the first year. Our admissions is looking very healthy next year. We should be in that 15, 18, 20 range coming in next year. And that's where we'd like to be, I think. And so from a quality standpoint, I think that 50, 60 range is our sweet spot as you're going through. What I did this for is to notice the grad rate in 3 years. While most universities will look at graduation rate over a 6-year period, they'll look at a 6-year grad rate and usually do 150% of the time. So they're looking at 6 years. And if I looked at the Vermont stats, right, the Vermont grad rate is somewhere around 48, 49% among all the colleges, and Castleton grad rate's 55% over 6 years. Our grad rate is hitting 90% over 3. And so, the students stick, the students stay. And it's because of this connection with the resort and the fact that they're up there. Is this for everybody? No. And when we talk to a family recruit, we say, look, you got to be all in. If you're undecided, you should not come here. You should go to a main campus somewhere and figure this. But if you're all in, this is a hell of an experience. Also point out that, the last year at GMC are heavily male, 9-1 in male. This year, 8-6. We're getting back to the balance where we thought we'd be. Also looking at Vermont, back then, we're looking at 1 from Vermont, 9 outside. We're getting back to that balance where we're attracting some Vermont students as well. So I think that while main campus is 2/3 Vermont, 1/3 from out of state, we're almost 2/3 out of state, 1/3 for Vermont. And on one hand, that's great. We're bringing in tuition dollars from outside the state. And we're not sending VSAC money elsewhere. We're bringing money in. And so that's great. And you get cash flow 3 times a year instead of twice a year, et cetera. So this is a program that has a lot of legs, a lot of traction. But I want to make sure that everybody understands that the reason that this is successful is the connection with Killington, the fact that Killington is there, the investment Killington makes. It's the executive team, it's the management, it's the CFO came into class on Wednesday and brought the P&Ls with him. And Matt came in and explained, here's where the resort is right now, folks. And look, here's where we thought we'd be in October. Here's where we are now. So Killington is willing to share whatever the students want to know, whatever we want to know. So without Powder, without Killington, this would just be another program somewhere else.
Representative Peterson.
Yes, thank you. Just to follow up on that question, do you have you followed beyond to see if these folks are staying in the hospitality industry or?
Yeah, I think, thank God for Facebook. I can track students down through Facebook now, that kind of thing, and see where they are.
Right.
Many years ago, the first couple of years after graduation, nobody knew where anybody was, right? And because they're moving around so much. If I had to look over the long term, I'd say that about half, a little more than half our students remain in the industry 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And the other half move on to other businesses. We've got the HR director for Macy's down in Florida is one of ours. We get a commercial real estate broker, et cetera, et cetera. The beauty of the program is that it's a business degree. There's accounting and finance and marketing research and HR. And you're going to go through all that and strategy and operations courses. And if we look at today's student and this generation of students, the generation of kids coming through are probably going to have 3, 4, 5 different careers and probably be in 10, 12 different organizations throughout, the days of my folks having one job with one company their whole life. Those are gone, right? So these students are well prepared. Decision making they've got to make, and whether they open their own businesses, as some have, or work for other organizations, or I've got one grad from maybe 10, 12 years ago, and he's a precious metals refinery manager with 2 plants that he's managing in New York. And so, but he's got a couple out. Another student early on is a home builder, but he's doing very well in the Cape. So we have no illusions that they're going to end up in this industry for life, but they're grounded and well prepared, and all the business decisions that they've got to make with the resort is just an outstanding experience for them.
Absolutely. I had one other question, Heidi, if I could. One thing with being so remote from Castleton, because it actually is quite a hike from there to Castleton.
Yeah, it's about a half an hour.
How connected do the kids feel to the university? Do they at all? I mean, are they able to play athletics? If I don't imagine you have any hockey players in your midst. You wouldn't be able to do it. I just wonder if there's any connection there that way.
Yeah, so the students that want to be connected are, and they've got friends on main campus, and again, in a normal COVID year, right? So,
Right, yeah.
and so if they want to go to the hockey game, football games, or whatever else, they did that. Or they want to go to a concert on main campus, they did that. Vice versa, the Castleton students on main campus who want to come up and ski for the weekend and, come visit their friends up at the lodge. So there is that connection there. In our recruits for next year, we've got a women's soccer player who wants to use all 4 years of her eligibility for playing soccer for Castleton. And so we'll work with the coach and make sure that she can do that. So she'll be spending the fall on main campus and winter and spring with us up the hill kind of thing. So, there's a lot of that flexibility and ability for students to go back and forth. That's not a problem.
Wonderful, thank you.
Representative Hango.
Thank you very much, and thanks for being here. This is the kind of program that I just love. It really warms my heart. I spent a number of years working with high school students and talking to them about their career plans. This is fantastic, so thank you. My question is about out-of-state students. I heard a presentation the other night that Castleton heavily discounts tuition to out-of-state students. So for the most part, a great number of them are paying the same thing as in-state students, but yet you cited the out-of-state money that's coming in. So could you speak a little bit more to that in depth?
Yeah, I really can't because I don't see any of the financial aid numbers.
Okay.
I don't see any
Thank you.
financial aid at all. I'm a faculty member. So that would be, Maurice and admissions and, above my pay grade, as they say.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I think we got the answer the other night that many out-of-state students are being discounted who come into Castleton. So they're really not paying that much more in tuition than a Vermonter is. But regardless, it's a beautiful program, and thank you for presenting to us.
Sure.
Frank, it's Heidi again.
Yep.
I'm just, I'd like to ask Rob if I could, since he's sort of the connection to Killington. Rob, you were around for a long time, so you were around when this thing was created. I'm just wondering how that came together. We have obviously our NVU Johnson and NVU Linden have some hospitality programs up here, but and we're gonna get some information from them as well. But I don't know if they have the kind of connection to the corporate world, the hospitality industry world that this is. And I just want to know how it works, and how you guys are, and how you benefit as a company from it.
Sure. I think Judy could probably answer a little better, but I'll just tell you from my background and from where I came from. I came to the resort in 2010, and at that time, I was introduced to the program. It had already been in existence for about 9 or 10 years at that point, but it was a very vital program. The kids are very committed, of course, and they go to work in a number of different departments that we really need them in. But of course, from an executive standpoint, the program was really embraced by everybody at the resort, especially the executive team. We know the value and the benefit of it. I think, Frank, I'm not sure you covered this data point, but there are 37 alums that now work for the resort in a number of different varied capacities. And one of them is on the call with us right now, who replaced me as a director of marketing and sales for the resort. So it's a very vital program. And the way that I looked at it, I actually started teaching in the program around 2014, 2015. I felt so strongly that I needed to get in front of the kids and just kind of give them my background and understanding of the industry and get them acclimated to what I was doing every year. So I thought it was very, very important. Judy, you might want to add something to that because you've been around a little longer and have some background on how it works to this day.
Yeah, well, I was actually not at Killington in the initial years that this was developed by Alan Wilson and Diane Davis, who was my predecessor in the Human Resource Office at Killington. But I know that there was a lot of kind of trial and error, right? So over the years, we've been able to refine the program and find what works. The biggest key for us was the timing of when the co-op dates, so that they line up with when we have the most work experiences available. And initially our supervisors were hesitant to hire one of the co-op students because they felt it was going to come with a lot more work in evaluating their job performance and assisting them above and beyond just training them for the job, because they do have to give them more attention on their class assignments and how that relates to what's actually happening at the resort. But now we find that the supervisors are fighting over who gets to hire some of the co-op students, because they know that they are reliable, engaged, and that they're going to be great employees throughout the winter. So as far as the initial development, Frank might be actually the best person because he was involved right there from step one.
Yeah, Alan Wilson went to Tom Benson and said, we need to get this program going. And then I was brought on board to get it going. We brought in, Green Mountain College brought in 11 students. All 11 stayed, by the way, and graduated. And we've had students from South Africa and Costa Rica, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Canada, Mexico, Honduras, all over the world. And our graduates, I mean, to the question earlier, some of our grads are, Michelle's back in South Africa running an events management corporation. She actually helped with the World Cup there in soccer a few years ago. And we've got grads in New Zealand and Hong Kong and the UK. Got another one in Moscow right now. So they're literally all over the world, and they're literally doing, the work of and Laura Batten in New Zealand has got a couple of daycare centers that she established in New Zealand, et cetera. So
Right. How many, so what's the state? I guess I'd really like to kind of find out because our challenge is the workforce right here in Vermont, making sure that we have workforce for our hospitality industry here. What's and I understand, and it's, I'm just trying, and maybe Jordan can jump in here too, as a recent alum.
I was just going to say, Jordan is perfect for this because if I had to look over the 20 years, I'm going to say half of our students graduate and go out west. So whether it's Salt Lake or, wherever they are, whether it's in California, Nevada, Salt Lake, Colorado, whatever. So about half the students seem to graduate and then head out west. And the other half seem to stay here, witness Jordan. And, our grads, we get a couple of grads down in Manchester from last June who were working in the hospitality industry down at the Equinox and so forth down in Manchester. So Jordan, why did you decide to stay here, and maybe speak to your experience a little bit?
So I attended Green Mountain College, originally from Western New York. And I think to Frank's point, there were a number of hospitality, or I did want to go into skiing, but there was programs I looked at. I think Linden State at the time had a similar program, but no one had the connection to the resort, which is why I ended up going to the resort and hospitality program here. In terms of staying, it was really just the opportunities that I was given to move around the resort. My first job was in banquets at the hotel. I've worked in guest services, tickets, marketing, and now the director of marketing and sales. But in terms of people staying, and Frank's point, people go west, they also come back east. Just in my graduating class, there's actually two of us that filled Rob's roles. So someone that I graduated was now the director of communications. So we're both serving on the leadership team. A good friend of mine, Greg Gleason, he went out west. He's now the snowmaking supervisor. Someone that graduated ahead of me is the grooming manager. So there are, I think someone threw out, there's 30 something of us that have stayed and are still working at Killington, but there's also a number of alum that are working in businesses on the road and elsewhere in the state.
And I think we're down to about 30 something working at Killington now, just because of the pandemic. We had been up to about 60 working at the resort, graduates. Yeah.
Representative Austin.
Yes, thank you. I'm wondering how this program is kind of marketed to Vermont high school students, either through the tech centers or their high schools. What's the linkage between this program and getting into the high schools to make kids aware of it?
I think that it's the traditional admissions efforts. Emily Wise-Alice and Amanda Lee have done a great job in the last year, 2 years, getting the word out. That was one of the problems that we had for many years, is the challenge of getting the word out that we even existed. And so I think, again, I'm not admissions, so I can't speak to all their efforts, but they're certainly making all the connections with the high schools that, particularly high schools that have hospitality programs and so forth, not only in the state, but around the region. And so we're starting to get some play there as well. So I think that's the effort.
One thing I wanted to add, if I could, just from an industry standpoint, one of the things that we've been doing is trying to get some publicity inside of industry publications like Ski Area Management Magazine and National Ski Areas Association, Vermont Ski Areas Association. We've reached out to those entities and we're trying to plug in so that the industry understands that we've got this program in play too. So there's a couple of different arms going on here.
Thank you.
And to Jordan's point earlier about students sticking around the Vermont area and whatever, I'm just thinking after Jordan spoke, the manager at Darkside is one of our grads. We've got Nate Mastroni, who's a real estate broker in Rutland area, et cetera. So students who stay here, they stay here for a long time. So again, we've got a contingent of folks that have come in from out of state and decide to stay here, raise families here.
What is your and Jordan, maybe you can help answer this too, because you talked about you're from Western New York, you said, is that right? What is the competition like? What other programs are the competition with this kind of program, and where would they be?
I don't know if I have recent data. Like I said, in the Vermont, at least in the Northeast, it was really Green Mountain College at the time and Linden State. I remember that there's a community college in the Midwest that was more technical and hands-on for like lift maintenance, more of trades than business management. And there was a program out west in the Tahoe region.
Now,
specifically, focusing more on ski than just hospitality. There's hospitality programs, all over.
Everywhere. There's about 450 hotel and restaurant schools around the country, and just in this area, you can look at Paul Smith's, and you can look at Johnson and Wales, and BU and Endicott, and UMass Amherst, and UNH, my alma mater, and UMaine Farmington. The list goes on for hotel restaurant schools. In terms of resort management programs, you're really looking at Sierra Nevada and us, and you're really looking at those two. And the difference with Sierra Nevada and us is, with Sierra Nevada, the model is more traditional in terms of go get an internship co-op somewhere in one of the areas. And, if you're in Incline Village, you can drive 20 minutes and hit 5 different resorts there. So that's the difference with us, is that we're tied in with Killington. Everything is there at Killington. You're totally immersed in everything Killington does, and you witness and you live the resort for 3 years while you're going to school. Like I said, the school model where you're in a hospital 24/7 for at least a year, couple 3 years. You really witness what's going on.
Okay, I'm going to continue because I don't see any hands, because I still have more questions. My apologies. But I think, Judy, this might be for you. You're obviously in the industry specifically right now, and in with the regional business community. And I guess I'm just wondering. I hear about workforce challenges with workforce issues a lot up here, of people being able to find workforce and quality workforce, and ones who are going to stick it out. And I'm wondering what it is, from your perspective as a person in the industry and probably in great communication with your regional industry, folks down there in the Rutland County area, what it's like, and how this program might help that. Maybe yours isn't as challenge. Maybe your area doesn't have the kind of challenges that my area does.
Oh no, we have challenges. That's for sure. So I'm sure you all know, the labor force in Vermont is shrinking. The population in general is shrinking. And that's, Rutland is no exception. We do everything we can to recruit, like you mentioned, from the high schools. So not even for this particular program, we are working closely with the high schools, trying to get workers on weekends, get people to understand that we offer many different jobs. A lot of people just think, oh, I'd have to work outside at a lift. And so we do a lot of education at the schools to let them know that we're a larger company. We have technical jobs, we have service jobs, we have administrative jobs. We need accountants and marketing and finance people. So we're definitely trying to use all the resources we can, as well as other partnerships with Weber, obviously the Department of Labor, Working Fields. That's a program that places people who are recovering from substance use disorder. So, we have a lot of ties into the community, getting everything we can out of our local community, and yet we still come short. We're never really at full staffing. And so this program really helps us have a solid core of people that we can count on. And usually sometimes in the first year, but usually by the second year, these students are in leadership positions. So if they're in a satellite ski rental shop, they may be the lead person, the key holder. They're setting up the point of sale. They're overseeing when the other staff get lunch breaks. So they rise into leadership positions pretty quickly. But I guess I don't know if that answers your question. There's definitely a labor shortage struggle.
No, it does, in the sense that this is like the core. This could be considered sort of the core of your the recruitment. But then you have all these other things that you're doing to recruit workers who aren't necessarily going to be in the business for a long time, but will be.
Right, as well as I'll just mention our foreign workers as well. We supplement the workforce through the H-2B visa and the J-1 visa. So just a plug for all of you, if you want to know more about that and help make sure the federal government is backing those types of visa programs, I'd be happy to give you some more information so we can keep those visas going.
Representative Peterson.
Yes, thank you. Judy, how are you doing right now with personnel, with people, employees? Are you, I mean, the weather's good. It couldn't be better for you folks right now. And I'm wondering, with COVID and that stuff, do you have enough employees? Are you fully staffed, or you alluded to the fact that you typically are not? I'm just wondering what it is right now in Killington.
Well, this is a different year. We're running with approximately half the staff we normally would in a normal winter. And that's mainly because we have, limited restaurants. We're not running all the restaurants we have, and the ones we are running are at very limited capacity with much simpler menu items to reduce, contact tracing, contacting, distancing and stuff. So this year, what we find every year is there's certain jobs that we just are constantly trying to fill. And that's generally some of the frontline entry-level positions like parking attendants, lift operators, and housekeepers. But overall, we feel pretty good. This year, we were able to repurpose a lot of our ski instructors who still wanted to be connected to the resort. They are doing different jobs around the resort because we've kind of reduced our snow sports school. So I'm not sure this year is the best indicator of.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. If a young man or a woman wanted to come up and work, would you have a job for them today?
Yes. Yeah.
You would. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I would say we have something for everybody.
Representative Jerome.
Thanks, Heidi. So Frank, I just want to make sure things are going as planned. Did you have any did you want to have other people prepare remarks, or did you want to, is this question and answer going okay for you?
No, Q&A is fine. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I wanted to speak to the Career and Technical Education Program. A number of years, the Rutland Center, Stafford ended their resort and hospitality management program. Is this a need that you see within not only the Rutland program, but perhaps other programs around the state that would feed to a program with a more advanced degree like you're operating?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be involved with the Stafford Tech program, and Colleen Garrett, when she was working with HR with Killington, and I would sit on their advisory board and so forth. And yeah, I think that's something that would definitely help get people into the industry and eventually into the pipeline for an advanced degree, et cetera. I see that as a critical component for. Look, I heard the other day in a meeting that 40% of high school grads in Vermont don't even go on to college. And yet our industry needs folks and needs a lot of folks. And that seems to be a route that would be great. You look at the tech programs, and it's not just Vermont. I mean, there's other states, obviously, in the union that have hospitality tech programs in high school as well. And lead college system and all that. So I'm a big proponent of having that there, students that are hands-on, applied, and just not the traditional academic types, but this industry is great in terms of growth and career and opportunities. And it might be something that would be amenable to some folks that not even considering going on to college. Like I said, I heard the other day, 40-something% of students out of high school don't even go on to college.
Sure. Yeah, there's a number I've been hearing. There's 3,000 kids that graduate every year that don't have a plan once they graduate. So that's a number we need to capture.
You know, I'll just add that I'm a big proponent to say some work experience is better than no work experience. So even if they decide to change tracks, it's great to have something in your background that you've held a job, whether it's at a supermarket or at a resort.
Right.
And I think sometimes the younger people aren't even getting that opportunity to hold any kind of job. So
I was going to ask another question about certifications. Do you wrap certifications into this program? So I'm on the Commerce and Economic Development Committee, and I hear a lot about we talk a lot about workforce development and certifications. Like, do you do the ServSafe certification, or there's the apprenticeship for lift service,
lift maintenance?
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
I know that would be a valuable skill. And I think it's called ServSafe. That's for the restaurant industry, or SafeServe. That's another one. I'm sure there's more certifications. Do you wrap those into this, or is it into this program?
They can be, depending on which position the student has chosen. So yeah, in food and beverage, they do get the ServSafe training. In rental shop, they get special training in how to tech ski bindings. You know, in lift operations, they're not getting the lift maintenance apprenticeship really, but they're getting exposure to how the parts work.
Right. So when they graduate, they also have a group of certifications that go along with, they could take along with them, not only their degree, but their sort of skill-based certifications too. And then the visa program for international workers, my understanding is that was completely canceled this year. Is that correct?
No, we were still able to proceed with H-2B visa holders.
Okay.
We do have a number of those. We did not attempt to get people on the J-1 visa this year, though.
Right. Okay. I'm sure that was
there. Yeah, it was sort of canceled, but there were ways around it. So
for the ones who had a lot of knowledge, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, this is great answers. Thanks.
Does anybody have any questions for anybody?
There's been some talk about NVU and you know, putting programs up there and all that sort of thing. I just want to go back to the original statement that I made. One of the original statements that the reason this program works and works so well is the commitment of Killington. You know, Judy sits in on Rob's co-op class every Wednesday afternoon. You know, so you get the director of HR sitting in on class. You know, Matt Kinsman coming into class and bringing all the financials the other day. So, you know, for NVU Johnson to tie in with Stowe or Smuggs or Jay or whatever, that's, you know, it sounds great on paper, or Linden with Burke or whatever it is, but you got to have the commitment, the size, and the ability to support and absorb the students and support the students, and, you know, really have that kind of commitment from the parent company to make sure this works. And that's where Powder and Killington have stepped up and done well.
I mean, we should probably also mention, Frank, that some of our management team actually teaches courses, for example, in lodging, retail.
Right.
Maybe you could talk a little more about.
Yeah, so in the operations course, like lodging, Dwayne Hall is going to teach that. And Chris Coughlin, when he was with Killington, taught the entrepreneurship, the new ventures, as well as the advanced Excel spreadsheet class as well. So that's the kind of commitment that I'm talking about is, the management team is very tightly tied in with our students, and students go around and they recognize everybody. Judy, how you doing? Mike, how's it going on? Et cetera, et cetera. So, and Jordan might be able to relate this, but there's a good, strong connection between the students, the alumni, the resort, the management team. It's a very, very strong chemistry.
I mean, that is the reason I chose this program over the other programs, was that connection.
Okay. Representative Austin.
Yes, I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you so much for this presentation and for the development of this program. I'm on the education committee, and that 40% is very concerning to me, because I think when you graduate high school, the longer you're out of school or in some kind of structure of learning, the harder it is to get into. I was going to ask a question about, high school. Well, it's just looking, I know what I was going to say, I'm sorry, is that the fact that kids can earn money and be getting an education is, I think, very unusual, as far as an opportunity. So, I would hope maybe we could look for other model, use this as a motto, not necessarily a ski area, but where kids could be earning money and be getting, credits at the same time. So just thank you very much.
Yeah, I would love to see the agriculture industry take this model, and instead of going fall, winter, spring, go spring, summer, fall, and tie in with farms and tie in with agriculture, and find a couple of farms in Sherburne or wherever it is, and really take that model and work within agriculture. I mean, the trick to this is having an industry laboratory, if you will, where the students can live and earn and work and put theory into practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great model.
Representative Page.
Yes, I was just wondering, to follow up on Representative Austin's comment, do you have any internships with high school students? And what is the starting wage for somebody to just come up to Killington and start working?
So the program doesn't have any high school students in the program as interns or anything like that. If a high school student wanted to, let's say they're in Woodstock or something, and take a college class and do that kind of stuff, I'm sure that there is those kinds of programs out there. Judy can talk about the starting wages.
Yeah, we actually just hired a student from Stafford Tech who's potentially interested in our lift maintenance position. And he is going to start out as the lift operator, but the lift manager, the maintenance manager, is going to kind of take him under his wing and show him a little bit more than you would get as an average lift operator, to see if he feels he wants to pursue that track longer term. So, that's one very recent success story. The starting wage, Vermont minimum wage, $11.75. We do have entry-level positions that start at that. Some positions start higher, depending on, what the duties are. So.
Okay. I think, does anybody else have anything? I just, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie, but I just want to thank you too. This was great to hear about. It's intriguing, I think, for all of us to see what's going on and how you've put this thing together. So I just want to thank you for taking the time, and I'm going to let Stephanie close it out for us.
Sure. Well, thank you for everyone for coming. And first of all, before we close up, are there any last words that you would like to provide? If any last advice for us or ideas that we could bring forward to our committees on how we can maybe work or improve our workforce development efforts within the state from your perspectives?
No, no, the last words, other than unless you can find a cure for COVID immediately. I mean, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you probably all know, being in the tourism caucus, but we have seen that the hospitality industry weathered the previous recession very well, as compared to some other types of businesses. And so we think that even with COVID, that the hospitality sector is really going to bounce back. We see demand for outdoor recreation continuing. Our summer business was on par with the previous summer, even though there was some pandemic restrictions. And so I guess as a whole for hospitality, I think it has a bright outlook. And I want to thank you for the work you're doing. So.
Jordan, I actually have a question for you as a younger Vermonter and someone who's decided to stay in Vermont. Do you have any thoughts about drawing more young Vermonters back to the state and to the region?
I don't know that I have the silver bullet. I don't think anyone does. I work on the committee with the Rutland, I guess Reddick now, or Cedar, the Real Rutland campaign, and trying to bring new residents into the state when,
Right.
It's not just focused on the hospitality, but I'm on the committee probably more from the marketing side, but there's a number of human resources directors from GE and Casella on there. And, everyone's looking for both entry level and, long-term year-round positions that they just can't fill in the region.
Okay, well, thank you. And Rob, did you have any parting comments before we leave for the day?
Hey, Stephanie, before Rob, Patty McCoy has her hand up.
Oh, Patty, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to reach out and, this program started, as Frank said, over 20 years ago at Green Mountain College. And when Green Mountain College left, I mean, it's a huge hole in our community here. And Frank is a member of our community. So I'm thankful for Castleton University for taking up the torch and carrying it on, because it is a great, great program. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm all set, Heidi, Steph. I'm good. Thank you
Okay.
very much for the opportunity.
And Frank, any parting comments?
No, just thank you very much for allowing us to come and share our thoughts and so forth. And this has been great, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been enlightening, and I think we've all learned a lot about the industry and the workforce needs and the great work that you're doing with Castleton and Killington. And congratulations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We appreciate it. And we'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks. Have a good day, everybody.